So thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Prabhu will join back. Prabhu is very much there. Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Mataji.
Yeah. Yes.
No, I got disconnected accidentally.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam To Jaya Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So today we are actually looking at the third canto, and okay, I already see some hand up, so that's very encouraging. Thank you so much. So we are in the third canto, chapter 12. So we'll be looking at verses from 16 to 20. So that's what we will be looking at for today. Just give me a minute. I'll try to share. Okay, so this verse is now up for everybody to see. And yeah. So the first verse I will read, and then the rest, then someone else can read, and then the other shlokas also. People can take turns in reading the shloka, and then the translation. So these are the two things that we will do. So we've got around 20 to go. So I mean 10 to go, which means there will be 10 volunteers will get a chance to read the shloka or the translation. Hare Krishna. So 3.12.16. Rudranam Rudra Shrishtanam Samanthat Prasatam Jagat Nisham Ya Shantyasyo Yuthan Prajapatir Asankatha. So Vasudha Mataji, do you want to read the shloka?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam to you. Please go ahead.
Rudranam Rudrashrishtanam Samantadgrasatam Jagat Nisamya Sankhya Soyutan Prajapatir Asankata. Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. And the translation, who would like to read this?
Shall I, Prabhuji?
Please go ahead, Mataji.
Translation by Prabhupada ki Jai. The sons and grandsons generated by Rudra were unlimited in number, and when they assembled together, they attempted to devour the entire universe. When Brahma, the father of the living entities, saw this, he became afraid of the situation. Shall I read Purport, Prabhuji?
No, Mataji. Though the purport is small, but we are not reading it in the interest of time.
Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Now, verse 17. Again, who would like to read? Sudha Mataji? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Alam Prajabhi Shrishtabhi Vidrishibhi Surottama Maya Saha Dahanti Bhir Dishashchakshotbhi Pulbanaihi. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. And then the translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, may I?
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Dandavat Pranams Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranams to you.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Brahma told Rudra, O best among the demigods, there is no need for you to generate living entities of this nature. They have begun to devastate everything on all sides with the fiery flames from their eyes, and they have even attacked me. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you for that. Then we are moving on to verse 18.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Ramakrishna
Can I
Prabhu.
read
Yeah,
it?
please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Tapatishta badram te sarvabhutasu kavaham tapasaiva yatha purvam srashta vishwamidham tvan.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. And the translation?
Anita Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. My dear son, you had better situate yourself in penance, which is auspicious for all living entities and which will bring all benediction upon you. By penance only shall you be able to create the universe as it was before. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So, verse 19.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandar pranams.
Then was pronounced to you.
Tapasaiva param jyotir bhagavantam adhokshajam sarvabhuta guhavasam anjasa vindate puman. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandar pranams.
Then was pronounced. Thank you so much, Mataji. And the translation?
Shall I, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Divya Mataji.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. By penance only can one even approach the personality of Godhead who is within the heart of every living entity and at the same time beyond the reach of all senses. Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat pranams.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. And the last shloka for today, that is verse number 20.
Srila Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Read the translation also, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Maitre uvacha evamatma bhuvasti saha parikramya giram patim bhadam iti amum amantya vivesha tapasevanam. Translation by Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Maitreya said, thus Rudra, having been ordered by Brahma, circumambulated his father, the master of Vedas. Addressing him with words of assent, he entered the forest to perform austere penances. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So these are the 5 verses that we will see. Give me a minute. So starting with verse 16. Rudranam Rudra Shrishtanam Samanthat Grasatam Jagat Nishamya Shankyaso Yuthan Prajapatir Asankatha. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Churunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Aschayata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna once again to all the devotees. Okay, so before we get started, seeking the blessings of all the Vaishnavas who are here, Vaishnavis and Vaishnavas. So kindly bless me so that I'll be able to do some justice to these wonderful verses, and the right words come in the right at the right time in the right mood. And also, I'm doing this as a service to my Guru Maharaj, to the Guru Parampara, and also for the pleasure of the Lordships. So, Hare Krishna. So, this particular chapter is called as the creation of the Kumaras and others. So, that's the heading or the title of this particular chapter that we are looking at. So, now, just to give some continuity and also to understand what is happening with respect to creation, we'll try to dwell into the verses that were covered earlier, just to give us a quick overview. And then from there, then we will be able to see what is going on in the mind of Lord Brahma, and then how he is also finding a solution for whatever is troubling him, and then how he goes about executing. So this becomes a very wonderful situation. Wonderful, not exactly situation, but this is a situation that everybody gets into. There's a lot of confusion, or we tend to do something, but then something else comes out. So this is some one aspect of the material world where the intention is something, but then something else happens, and then how we go about correcting it. So these are some of the learnings that we will get from whatever Lord Brahma is going through. So from that perspective, we will try to understand from the beginning. Okay, so Lord Brahma has started the creation, and this particular creation is called as the Visarga. So there are these 10 characteristics of the Shrimad Bhagavatam, which you all are aware of. Out of that, Visarga is called as the secondary creation. So what are the 10 characteristics? Does anybody want to remember or want to try? Sarga, Visarga. Okay, so maybe we can discuss that for some other time. So now Visarga means secondary creation, okay, out of the 10. And Brahmaji actually, he creates 5 kinds of nascence. So which is how he starts off. What are these 5 things that he ends up creating? One is called as self-deception. Self-deception means deceiving oneself, or you forget one's real self or identity, and then we think we are somebody else. So that is one aspect that gets created by Brahma. Because in the beginning, there was nothing. There was no physically nothing was there. In the subtle level, there was nothing, like there is no mind, nothing of that sort. And then none of these qualities were also there. So then Brahmaji actually is given the task of going about creating all of this. Now, where is he taking the raw material or the inputs for the creation of this? He takes it from the Mahatattva. So if you recall, in the earlier cantos, we have seen how Mahatattva is the sum total of all the necessary ingredients that are needed for creation. So that is present in the Mahatattva, which is created by the Lord. So Mahatattva is Sarga, or creation by the Lord, and Visarga is the Brahmanda, which is secondary creation, where using these Mahatattva ingredients, Brahma is going about his job of creating. So now we saw self-deception is of the 5 things of nascence. Self-deception is one thing that's getting created by Brahma. After that, there is the sense of death. So there is a fear of death that is there in all of us. Where is this fear coming from? So that is again created by Brahma. And then there is also, that's the second one. Then the third one is anger after frustration. So when we set out to do something and we are not able to do, we get frustrated. And that frustration actually leads to anger. So this is the anger that is after frustration is created by Brahma. And then there is also the sense of false ownership. What is the false ownership that we all have? We think that we are this body, and then whatever I see, I want to lord it over. So this is that sense of false ownership. I own this place. This belongs to me. I belong to this country. I belong to this state. This particular language I speak, or any of these identification with the bodily on the bodily platform is the thing that we are talking about. And also there is a sense of ownership that is extends to whatever we interact, any material things that we interact. We want it. We have a desire to want it, and that desire is being created by the Lord. Then there is also this illusory bodily concept. That means I know, I mean, we all know that we are the Atma or the soul, but then we actually are in Maya, and then we think we are this body. So that is another illusory bodily conception which is there. So because of this illusory bodily conception, all these other things come up, which is self-deception. We try to deceive ourselves because we know we are not this body, but still we deceive. We somehow try to ignore the fact that we are not the body and we are the soul, but then we try to continue to maintain this bodily attachment. That is the sense of self-deception. And then because we are in this body and we think we are the body, then the body is perishable. So there is this fear of death or the sense of death. And then we go about doing things with our imperfect senses. So there is anger that comes in because we are not able to accomplish what we want. And then there is also the sense of false ownership because we think we possess everything that is with us. So these are the 5 nations that are being created by Brahma, and then they condition the living entity in the material world. It conditions us to the material world. It binds us to the material world. So here actually this creation, the Acharyas say, was out of a matter of necessity. Somebody might think and ask, why is it that Lord Brahma has to create all this? If only he had not created all of this, then we wouldn't have had this kind of an attachment or the conditioning that we have today for material things. It wouldn't have been there in the first place if it was not created. But that might look like a very logical question to ask, but then if we look a little beyond and then see how the Acharyas explain why this creation was there, it was a matter of necessity. Why it is a matter of necessity that these things have to be created? Can anybody want to try this particular question? What I am asking? Why is it a matter of necessity to have these things? Though it is not desirable. Okay, so because when we are put into this material world, then all the living entities, when they come in here, they all are in different stages of of propensities, or the different gunas that they have, or different what do you call likings, or different desires that they have. Okay, and that desire, different types of desires that they have, all of this is for enjoying the material world. That is true. Yes, I'm seeing Archana Mataji saying it is for the desire to enjoy. So the desire to enjoy is there, and then various types of personalities are there to take care of all of them. So these things are necessary. Otherwise, without this, we will not be able to enjoy in the material world, because that is why we came here. We set out to this place, or we were made to come here because of the desire to enjoy independent of Krishna was there. And this desire to enjoy independent of Krishna can only happen when these things come into picture. Otherwise, if we know who are we, who is myself, then we will all be like the sons of Brahmaji, that is the 4 sons, the Kumaras. So we'll come to that. So they were beyond these 5 kinds of nations. So it did not affect them. So they were like kind of liberated right from day one. So that type of a situation is not very desirable, because the Lord has sent us here to enjoy. So you might as well forget Krishna. So he takes away that remembrance, and then he gives these nations, and then we go about our business the way we are doing it because of this. Now, actually, Lord Brahma does not like this. It's not like he did it out of like he wanted to do it. He didn't like it. But so because he did not like it, and then he still ended up this kind of a creation, he sits down to meditate. So meditation is one thing that Lord Brahma does best. So we know that he has a track record for meditation. So he has sat and meditated for many, many years, celestial years, and then finally then he understood what is the purpose, why he was here, why he is on top of the lotus, and then what is his role there, what he needs to do. All of that we have seen in the earlier shlokas or in the earlier chapters about how Lord Brahma understood many things by meditation. So meditation on the Lord is something that he immediately takes to, because he realizes that this kind of creation he was not liking. So he immediately begins to meditate, and after meditation, then he begins to create afresh. So what he created then? He created the 4 great sages or the Kumaras. So who are these? They are generally referred to as the sons of Lord Brahma. So Sanaka, Sanata, Sanatana, and Sananda. So now he created them, and then his job was to populate the earth, go ahead, create the Brahmanda, and then populate it with people, with entities, not people, with entities. So this was the task that he had at hand. So when he created the 4 of his sons, then he actually told them that you will have to go ahead, get married, and then you will have to populate the earth. Now, the 4 sons of Brahma, they disagree. So this is something that you have seen already. So they say that they disobeyed the Lord. They did not, the father in this case, they disobeyed him. They did not want to do that. And then they said, because they were not in the platform, they were not covered by the 5 nations that we just spoke of. And because they were not covered or affected by the 5 nations, they were not very keen on going ahead and doing this particular job of procreation. They said, no, we don't want to do that. And then, so then before, along with that, Lord Brahma also is creating the 4 principles of knowledge, because he created nations and then he knows that everybody is put into darkness because of this. Now, to substantiate that or to take care of that particular situation, he creates the 4 principles of knowledge. And the 4 principles of knowledge are equated to the 4 sons of Lord Brahma. So the first principle of knowledge that he creates is the Sankhya. Now, Sankhya means the analytical study of the material world. So, Sankhya philosophy, it starts with the body, the Panchabhuta, and then the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, then the ego. Like this we have seen, the Sankhya yoga, there are these 24 elements, or they'll say 25 elements, depending on how the counting is done. Sometimes in a certain way the counting is done, it comes to 18. So these are intricate things, but we have to understand that the Sankhya, what is being given, is the analytical study of the material world. That is one of the principles of knowledge. That is the first step towards going towards understanding the Lord, or going towards Lord Krishna. So this is the first step, and this is being created by Brahma. Then the next thing that he creates is the yoga, the aspect of yoga, or the principle of yoga. Now, yoga is actually the mysticism that is needed for liberation from the material world or bondage. Yoga means, we know that root word is yuj, which means to connect. Connect to what? Connect to the Lord. So yoga is the mysticism for liberation, because if you connect to the Lord, that means you are liberating yourself from the material world. So this is the second aspect. Third one is vairagya, the aspect of vairagya, which is, vairagya means actually acceptance of detachment from material enjoyment, so as to elevate ourselves to higher spiritual understanding. So giving up something for a higher cause, like a vairagya, that is the aspect of giving it up, is called as vairagya. Vairagya is something that is practiced by every one of us. It is also called as postponement of gratification in the material world. What they do, like say, take a student, for example. So he or she has got exams tomorrow, and then today the other friends want to go for a movie. So this person gives it up willingly. He says, no, I cannot do that. I will not come. So this is willingly giving it up. That enjoyment of going to the movie with the friends, giving it up willingly. and then sitting to study, so that study and then do the exam well and then score well. So that is a higher joy that is expectation of the student here. I mean, that's just an example to relate. So like this, in the material world, we will have to give up attachment for material enjoyment to elevate to higher spiritual understanding, and that is Vairagya. And the fourth principle is the principle of austerity or tapas. That is like the voluntary austerities that one takes for perfection, like waking up at a certain time, even though voluntarily doing it. It is not involuntarily. Voluntarily, we don't want to do it, but then we still try to somehow bring ourselves to do it, and that is called as tapas. So now these are the four things that was thought or that was created by Brahma, and then he gave it to the four sons. And what they did was they used these four, and then they actually they taught the world the devotional service to the Supreme Lord as the only success that one has to look forward to. And then they went about in that direction. They did not go the family way. So they took off on another side. And now what happened because of this? This made Brahma angry, because he expected, I mean, he created the sons and he thought they will go ahead and then help him in completing his creation, but then they were of no help here. They disobeyed. But the Shastras or the Acharyas say this type of disobedience is not against the Shastras, because they were actually in the platform of self-realization. They were in the platform of Vasudeva Parayana. So they were completely one with the Lord, engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. So anybody who's engaged in the devotional service of the Lord is free from all kinds of debts, run, like pitru run, I mean, parents run, any type of run, dharti run. There are some 4 kinds or 5 kinds of run. So they are free of all of this run. They don't have to do any activity to pay up or as a gratitude for that particular help that they have taken from that particular individual. So that is not affected for, I mean, that doesn't affect for a Vaishnava. So now the actual story starts from here now, so to speak. So now we said that because of this, Brahma became very angry. And then in his mind, he tries to control that particular anger. He doesn't want to express it because he realizes that this is not right to express the anger in this way to such elevated people, even though they are my children. But then they are so elevated, so it becomes very unbecoming of me to get angry with them because they are all Vaishnavas. But still, in spite of trying to control it, anger comes out. It comes out how? It comes out from between the eyebrows and the forehead here. It comes out like that. So when we are angry also, actually our eyebrows, the forehead, there's a frown. That frown is actually the function of this eyebrow. I mean, the space between the eyebrows. So you have a kind of a look which shows that you're angry. You can make out because it is there in between the eyebrow. When you look, you'll know. So this anger now comes out from Lord Brahma, from the eyebrows of Lord Brahma, or between the eyebrows of Lord Brahma, in the form of a child. And now this child, there is a description of this child. It is blue and red in color, and it is named as Rudra. Now, blue is an color which is indication of ignorance, and red is a color which is an indication of passion. So this particular blue-red color indicates that there is ignorance and passion. So anger is due to ignorance and passion. So that is how Rudra is in the color of blue and red. And then this child Rudra becomes very agitated and then is crying. So Brahmaji has to pacify this particular child, Rudra. So how does he pacify? He pacifies by saying that I will give you a place to reside, don't worry, and things like that. We have seen that pacification happening in another instance by Parikshit Maharaj when he was about to kill the personification of Kali. Then he immediately falls and then begs forgiveness, and then he says, give me some place to stay, what to do, I am also part of the creation. And then he relents. He understands that, yeah, it's part of the whole creation, so he has to be given a place, and then he gives that place. So that's another story. But in the same way here also, Rudra is given certain places to reside. What are these places? Brahmaji decides that you can reside in the heart. So the Rudra anger is something that whelms from the heart. We can see that. And then you can reside in the senses of the living entities. So the senses of the living entities, like the eyes, the ears, and then the mouth, and then the skin, or even the limbs and all that. So now, when a person becomes angry, we can see how the eyes turn red, or the ears become hot, and then the nostrils flare up a little bit when they are angry, and then sometimes you clench the fist, and then you become a little, you stamp the feet. The limbs are also involved. So all these are proof that the residential place for Rudra or anger. And then another place that he demarcates is air of life. That is the breathing. So there also Rudra can occupy that particular place also. So now when a person becomes angry, there is shortness of breath that is there. The breathing becomes very heavy and quick, like panting and all that. So that also is another thing. And then he also said, Brahma said, you can live in the sky, in air, in fire, in water, and in earth. That means all the Panchabhutas. And then you can live in the sun and the moon. And then you can also live in the austerity. Now we have seen all, I'll not go into the details of this, but we can understand how each one actually is manifesting anger in certain situations. So when, and then that particular anger also creates a little bit of a fear in the individual. So these are things that are wonderfully explained in the purports. So this is the continuity that we are seeing. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, there is a particular shloka, which you all might be aware, 3.37, where it says that krodha or anger is from kama or desire or lust. Desire is one thing, lust is another thing. Lust is intensified desire or concentrated. You can have desire, okay, if Lord willing, or if it is possible, then maybe it will be nice to have something. That is a desire which generally all living entities have. But then it turns into lust when it becomes very intense. It says like, I need to have this, like some children, we've seen how children become so possessive of something that they go to any length to display their displeasure if it was denied to them. So they might roll on the ground in front of everybody and create a scene. They might cry, they might shout, all of that. So it becomes, because the intensity of attachment is so strong for that particular child, so it gets displayed in another way. So this is the type of attachment that we are talking about when we say lust, and it could be for any kind of desire or anything. It could be lust for taking care of any sense enjoyment is classified under lust. So when lust is there, and then when it is filled in the heart, when we allow a desire to turn into lust, because we keep dwelling on it, and then we keep seeing, and then it gets reinforced, and then we reach a point where our mind decides that I cannot live without this, or I'll have to possess this particular car, or a particular new brand of, a new model of a certain phone, technology that has come in, or it could be anything, or a certain type of house, or a certain type of jewelry, or anything. You kind of get so attached to it that you want it at any cost, and then one would go to any length to have it in their possession. So now you see how these 5 aspects of nascence are all connecting, and then it acting on us, because there is the sense of ownership, false ownership, and then possessiveness, then self-deception. All of this is taking us to this particular aspect of lusting something which actually should not have been there in the first place. Now, when that is denied to an individual, because it's not necessary that all of the things that we desire we will get, because we may not be deserving many things. When we don't deserve it, when it is not there in our karma, or as per our karma, what is flowing across at this particular time, then whatever we do, we will not get it. So then that becomes disappointment, frustration, and then anger. So this is how anger gets generated. And then we also saw that this is a principle of Rudra. The Rudra principle is acting on that particular individual. And this is proof that we can see how we just described that, no? Like how Rudra is in all these places, and then it is displayed there. In fact, even in austerity, there is this anger that we have seen in how sages who are always austere, they display anger many times. So perfect examples are Durvas Muni, and then Shringi, when he came to know that his father was insulted by the king by putting a dead snake around his neck, then he becomes very angry. And Durvasa, we know, he becomes angry with Ambarish Maharaj, and then it puts him into a lot of undesirable position, and finally he has to beg forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj, and thereby he is able to save himself from the chakra that follows him, because he angered, or he displayed his anger to a Vaishnava. So like this, we have seen how this creation of Rudra was very necessary, and the 5 nascents are also necessary. Now, once Rudra was created and then he was given a place like this, he was also given 11 names, or there are 11 types of Rudras, we know that. And then and then each of them, I mean, there were also 11 wives. So all this was given to this person by Brahma. And then he was told to go ahead and then create and co-create, like go ahead with the creation, have as many sons and grandsons that you want to have, and then go ahead and populate the earth. That's the instruction that was given by Brahma. So the sons and the grandsons, they created by Rudra. So Rudra went about his job. He was not like the poor Kumara, so he went about obeying, and then he created. He created sons and grandsons. And then they all, what happened was, the quality of these people are very different because they are all coming from anger. So it was actually not something that he wanted, but then the opposite was happening. So they wanted to devour or destroy the universe. And seeing this, actually, so they are in the process already. The sons are being born, the grandsons are being born, and they are occupying everywhere. And then they want to devour the universe only. So this is how, because anger devours everything. We know that, right? So in this way, there is a situation that is not very pleasant, and it is counterproductive to the task that Brahmaji had in his hand, which is to do Srishti and then ensure that there's a proper platform provided for all the living entities, so that they could go ahead and then enjoy. And then there's a watch that is kept on them to see the results, and then all of that. The whole machinery has to kick in. But then you have a slightly different situation here because of the Rudra philosophy. The descendants of Rudra were not aligning to what Brahmaji had in his mind, and they were making plans to kill even harm Brahma. Brahma becomes very afraid of them. So here in Prabhupada is explaining that Rudra philosophy means the descendants of Rudra sometimes make plans to kill Rudra by the grace of Rudra. So that is Rudra philosophy. So anger is self-devouring. It is a byproduct of anger, which is actions are such that it will destroy the person who's getting angry. So it is self-destructive, they say, right? So this is Rudra philosophy, which Prabhupada explains a little bit in the purport. And then Brahma becomes afraid seeing all these things happen. So in verse 17, he tells Rudra not to create anymore, as it is destructive. And there is time for this. This is not the time to go about on a destructive spree, because I'm just creating now. So he says, don't do anything. Stop. He tells Rudra not to create anymore. And then he says to his son, dear son, that is Rudra he is addressing in the next verse in 18, he says, please do penance. Go and then meditate. This meditation or penance is very auspicious, and it brings about benediction. So Brahma, of course, is a perfect person to watch for that, because he himself has done meditation, and then he has understood a lot of things, and then he is his existence or whatever he is because of the meditation and because of the mercy of the Lord. So he is aware of this. So he tells Rudra also to do the same. And then he says that it is very auspicious, and then it will bring about benediction for all of you. So by penance, you can create the universe as it was before. We don't want this kind of a universe that you're creating now by populating the earth in this way, but we can create a universe which it was like how it was before. That is why in the purport, Prabhupada says, you can see. And then actually Rudra or Shiva goes into meditation, or he goes to do penance. This is what these 5 verses are talking about. And then in the purport, Prabhupada is saying that is how you see many times when they have to represent Shiva, then he is shown as somebody who's always in meditation. And what is he meditating on? He's meditating on Lord Vishnu. And this is under the instructions of Lord Brahmaji. That's the new thing that we are learning here now today. So by penance only, one can even approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what is told in the 18th verse that we read today. And then there is also a description of this Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So they don't miss an opportunity to glorify the Lord at any time. So the moment there is this talk of Supreme Personality of Godhead, it says, who is present in all our hearts. So that's another quality of the Lord that is being brought out. So we know that the Lord is there in all our hearts. And at the same time, he cannot be understood by our senses. He is Adokshaja. That's the word that they use in the verse. So he is Adokshaja. Adokshaja is that personality who cannot be understood with the senses that we have. We cannot understand the personality with our mind. We cannot understand or see the personality with our eyes or touch or feel or any of the senses that we have. We cannot use it to understand the personality. That personality is Adhokshaja, and that only refers or it can only equate to Lord Krishna or the Vishnu Tattva. So this is the aspect that we saw in that particular verse. I think it was verse 18, which talks about the quality of the Lord. And then it says that such a person, even though he is beyond the reach of our senses, he can still be understood or he can be approached by meditation only. So even though he cannot be, but then still you sit and meditate and do penance, then thereby we will attract the mercy of the Lord, and that will take us to, it will give us some realization of Lord, and then it will take us nearer to him. So so what is being discussed here is, he's also telling us how to manage anger. He's making Rudra sit and then do penance. This is what generally everybody does. When they see the child or somebody very angry, the mother or the parent says, no, now you please stop. You sit in one place, sit quietly, don't do anything, close your eyes. So these are all what? Tenets of meditation or penance. Okay, they may not tell exactly to meditate on the Lord. I mean, if that is told, then that whole instruction becomes complete. It becomes a AC instruction. But still, anyway, those tenets are still maintained. So if somebody is angry, then the only solution is to calm down is by sitting quietly and then shutting off all the senses and then allowing the mind to calm down. The calming down of the mind happens faster if it is done by keeping the Lord in the center. Otherwise, of course, there are many meditations where they just try to think of the void and things like that. That also helps. But this only proves that the tenets are still the same. So anger management is one thing that we are seeing. And then we can also understand that this particular thing is done by great personalities like Brahma. Brahma got angry, then he had to meditate, and then he went about creating those other 4 principles of knowledge after creating the nations. And then it is now the turn of Rudra. Rudra is anger personified. So he is creating a lot of disturbance. And then Brahmaji is actually telling him to sit and meditate. And then in verse 20, Rudra actually takes up that particular instruction, and then he enters the forest to perform austerities and penances. So he agrees and then he sits, even though he is anger personified, but he listens. And then because he listened, then he's sitting and then he begins the meditation, which means that the activity of procreation stopped by Lord Shiva, and then so that the other kind of creation or procreation can happen, which is how this whole thing is panning out. But now the main takeaway for us is on anger management. And then now what is this particular anger? Anger is something which is comes up from within us when what we desire is not met. So we saw ignorance, the 5 principles of ignorance, then which is actually ignorance plus passion, you can say. And ignorance and passion leads to anger. So the 5 principles is the ingredient for anger to come up. Otherwise, there is no anger. That is why in a realized person who's crossed beyond the 5 nations, principles of nations that we saw, whoever has crossed beyond that, they don't get angry. They are not. They don't get angry because they have already crossed this, so they are not allowing this to affect them. In this way, we can see this connection with ignorance and with passion, which is leading to anger, which is because of the 5 principles that Brahmaji created. Then because he created us and put us in a very difficult situation, to help us come out of that, he created the 4 principles of knowledge, which is the Sankhya, Yoga, Vairagya, and Tapas. And then that is why they say, and then the Kumaras gave us this another thing. They put those 4 principles, packaged it, and then gave us this devotional service. And that is how the Kumara Sampradaya came about, which talks about doing devotional service to the Lord without any motivation and continuously doing it without any expectations of result. So for this now, how do we go about doing this? Let's take a moment to understand. See, any activity that we do, there has to be a relationship. There is this concept of Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. We'll try to use that to understand how we end up messing it up, or how we should not mess it up so that we are able to do the Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana correctly. So Sambandha means establishing a relationship, we know. Abhidaya means the activities that are involved after the relationship is established. And Prayojana is the result that one gets. Now, this is the order or the sequence in which it has to go. There has to be a relationship. And based on that relationship, there is certain amount of activity that is being done. And based on the weight of that activity, there is a result that is being obtained. Now, what happens, because we are so conditioned, we mess up this order. So, first of all, there is no Sambandha. We only want Prayojana. We want the result. So, we have put P in the first. In S, A, and P, we have put P in the first. Or sometimes, and then when you put P in the first, then because you want certain thing, then you try to develop a relation with somebody who can give us that. So we end up going to the demigods, or we end up going to friends who can help us, and so many things, so many ways we might pray. And then if we are not getting it, then we will become frustrated. And then there is the wrong Sambandha is there. And so the Abhidaya is also wrong. We end up wasting our time because we do activities which we are not supposed to do, which will put us in the cycle of karma, so in the action and reaction cycle, and thereby it pulls us down. So now, by putting Prayojana first, we have messed up the whole thing. Now, somebody might be a little more elevated. They'll say, no, I shouldn't look for result. Now, let me do the Sambandha. So they'll try to develop a relationship. Now, once they develop the relationship, then there also they can falter. At every step, we can go wrong. So then they will try to put Prayojana after Sambandha. I have this relationship now, so let me get something out of this. So let me do some activity. Let me please them so that I will get it. So which is again the same situation. So like this, we can understand how by mixing up these things, we end up in a situation which is not very good for us. I am talking about whatever I said now is applicable for material things as well as for spiritual, because most of the time we approach the Lord for material gains. So these can be used at both the places. So even though we might think we are doing it for spiritual, but then behind the spiritual activity, there could be a material motive. So now this material motive then comes first. So after Sambandha, so after understanding who's Lord, who's the Supreme Personality, who's Krishna, so we have understood and we are convinced. So Sambandha is there. Then we might bring Prayojana immediately after Sambandha. Oh, I want these things, I want this. So the material desire. So the 5 nations are still active. So we end up with this kind of a situation where we put the P immediately after S, which is Sambandha. So when we put Prayojana there, then the Abhidaya follows, then that's not a very good situation to be in. So it is not going to give the perfect result. So in this way, we will have to understand, analyze, and then understand where we are going wrong. And then when we understand where we are going wrong, then we realize that the Acharyas are also explaining this so nicely. They are saying that we make a mistake because we are not doing the service in the present. We are always having some agenda to that service. Let me do this, so I will get that. So we are more dwelling on the Prayojana part rather than the Abhidaya part. So what the Acharyas say, once the Sambandha is established, once the Sambandha is established, then the Abhidaya has to happen. Then it has to be only Abhidaya, not be worried about the Prayojana or the result. But we are not like that. So what we do is we are trying to do abhideya with prayojana in mind, like I said before. And that is not a good situation. And this is what is actually taking us away. Now, the best way to come back is not to think of prayojana when we are doing abhideya. So abhideya has to be done in the present, in the moment. I hope you're getting this. So when we do service, I will not think of anything else. I will only do this. So there has to be a relationship that has established and it remains strong. I should always think of the Lord. Let's say we are doing some service in the altar, or as an example. And then there are the lordships which are there in the altar. And then we have to keep that relationship as in the focus. And then say that I'm doing this so that it pleases the Lord. So that way, then the abhideya will be pakka, or it will be better. And then the prayojana is just to please the Lord. So our personal requirement, I mean, there are personal requirements. Even when we are doing the seva, it will be there, but we are trying to keep it out, not allow it to come in the front, not allowing it to come in the conscious mind. So by being conscious about this particular aspect, about abhideya, and then just doing that activity will ensure that we are not we are in the present, and thereby, because we are in the present, we will have the prayojana which is in par or relevant to the abhideya that we are doing. So because the Lord says, no, depending on the level of surrender, accordingly I award them or I give them the realization, or I award them what they are deserving. So this particular shloka is applicable here also, where the Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana activities we do, then we will be able to keep this nascence out, 5 things that we saw. And then those 4 principles of knowledge is also linked with the devotional service that we are doing. And because we are in the present, then we will not go wrong. And because we are not going wrong in the Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana, then there is no expectations, or there is no lust that comes out because, there is no anger or frustration that comes out because it did not happen. So when we are, if we are experiencing frustration and anger, it is a clear sign that we have interchanged these things. So this is as we can see ourselves. So we'll realize that there is some anger coming in within me. Then that is because I was attached, or I had certain expectation. And that expectation is not just to please the Lord, but it is in connection with me, which means it is like saying, instead of trying to please the Lord or to see that the Lord is pleased, we'll end up with the expectation that I want to please the Lord. So then the prime focus is on I want to do it. And if I am not able to do something, even though it is a devotional service, let us say somebody else ends up doing it, then there is anger, frustration, or there is envy, and all of these negative things come about. So in this way, we can understand. These are very subtle things, but we'll have to go down deeper into that level to understand what is happening within us, by way of what Brahmaji is now going through, and then how he's giving a solution of penance and going into the forest and then meditating and doing penances. So which will help us to see these things clearly, and thereby that's again because of the mercy of the Lord. And once we do that, then we will be able to have the right temperament of being in the present when we do the service, so that it will not lead to anger or frustration. So sometimes, even though we are doing devotional service or trying to do devotional service, we might become angry or frustrated. So this is how the sequence goes, because we have mixed up that sequence of Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. We have put ourselves in the middle. So like I was saying, I want to please Krishna. It's not like I want to see Krishna pleased. So if you want to see Krishna pleased, as long as that particular activity is done, it could be anybody, then Krishna is happy, then we are happy, so it is fine. It's not necessary that I have to do it. But then once we get into this aspect of I want to do it, and then we try to we try to be faster so that I can do it before the other person does. And then, the mind is very complicated. It will come up with so many things, and then it will help us to be in that bodily platform itself of me and I want to do it, which is not a good situation. And this is what is being explained by the acharyas for the last verse, or the total of all these verses where he rightly concluded about the aspect of how we become angry is because of I-centric, and then we'll have to remove that, and then we can only remove that even in devotional service. I-centric comes in. Only way to devote that is by doing the Sambandha, Avidaya and Prayojana in the proper way. And for that, Sambandha is already there, but Avidaya is the activity, and the main focus is on activity, because for any activity, even if it is devotional service, it is a consciousness that matters. So being in the right consciousness, which means being in the present, which means not thinking of the future when you are doing a devotional service activity, nor not thinking of the past, or after this I have to do something. The planning stage. Planning stage is not, that's a mode of passion. So that is not advisable. But then just doing that action itself, and then being in the moment and not worried about the future, or not in things that are yet to happen, nor being worried too much about the past, but just doing it in the present. That will ensure that we are not frustrated or we don't get angry. So these are, and we are not dependent on the prayojana because this will make me happy or any of those things. So trying to eliminate all of this and then doing our devotional service will definitely mean that we are going one step ahead in the way we are executing our devotional service, or in the way we are trying to become more Krishna conscious. So we were unconscious, we didn't know anything. Then we became conscious of ourselves. And then now we have to become conscious of others, or conscious of being conscious of others means being conscious of Krishna. These two are equal. So becoming conscious of Krishna is the ultimate in being conscious of others. So if we know that Krishna is everywhere, and then we behave and then we do activities in that way, that means we are conscious of Krishna, which means that it is the ultimate in being conscious of others, which means not being conscious of me. So by being conscious of others, this being conscious of self becomes minimized, minuscule. And that is what we are set out to achieve, right? Because we are always so I-centric. I comes up first every time. So we are trying to minimize that. So we can minimize that by increasing Krishna consciousness. So all these are so wonderfully connected. This is what I wanted to say. It's already 10:30, so I'll stop here. So the main takeaway is with respect to how Lord Brahma is teaching us about calming ourselves if we get angry, and why anger comes is also we saw in the last 10 minutes about how because of being I-centric, because of the 5 naissances that was discussed in the beginning of this particular chapter, that is the reason for this anger to come in. And because we are disappointed, and how we'll have to raise above that, how the 4 Kumaras rose above that, and then they gave us the principles of devotional service, and how Rudra also, even though he was part of those 5 principles, still there is hope for him because he sits down and then meditates, because he was listening to the instructions of Lord Brahma. These are some wonderful takeaways that we have. So irrespective of our situation, if we are following instructions, and if we are meditating on the Lord, dwelling on the Lord, becoming more and more conscious of the Lord, then definitely we are in the right path. So on that note, I'll stop here. If there are any questions or comments that anybody has, please go ahead. So I see. Sorry, yeah, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This Sambandha, how does it happen? Sambandha, is there any presiding deity that we have to get connected? How does it happen? Automatically, or?
Sambandha is, yes, Mataji. Sambandha is trying to know who we are. That is why that Sankhya philosophy helps. Who am I? I know I am not this body. I am not this air. I am not this mind. I am not this intelligence. So who am I? Then I am a part and parcel of, I am the soul. And what is this soul? Soul is everywhere. So then there is a super soul. So now is there a relationship between soul and super soul? So this is the Sambandha. This is a process. It's a gradual process of establishing the Sambandha in a proper way. So first of all, self-realization, then God realization. So realizing who we are, and then who is God, and then what is this connection? That connection is Sambandha, and that is yoga. By practicing yoga, that means yuj, the connection. It could be Sankhya. That is why it is called Sankhya Yoga, because it connects us to the Lord. I hope that clarifies. Knowledge which connects us to the Lord.
Yeah.
Hare
Okay,
Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Thank you,
Sambandha is knowing who we are. we are the eternal servants of the Lord. And Abhidaya is only the devotional service or any karma that is allotted for us?
See, in the way it is explained in transcendental terms, it is not just knowing who we are, it is also knowing who is Lord and the relationship that we have. The 5 tenets of Bhagavad Gita also the same thing, right? Who is God, who am I, and what is the relationship? That is Sambandha. What is the Sambandha? What is my Sambandha between myself and my, say, my brother or something like that? So it means that I am there, he is there, and then we are connected to the parent and all that. That connection, that whole thing, that is how Sambandha is established. Now, Sambandha is knowledge. In the same way, you apply it for the Lord. So this whole thing together is Sambandha. Once this is established, then there has to be Abhidaya, no? So now let's take the same example of brother. I know he is my brother, and then I just turn away and walk. Is that correct? No, then the knowledge is useless. So now Abhidaya must be, oh, okay, my brother, so please come sit for something, some activity. Shall I get you some water, whatever. You do that, right? That is a service that you do to that individual based on the Sambandha. Same way with the Lord. I'm taking this material example so that we are able to align it and then use it for the Lord. So now the Lord, the Sambandha is established. We have to do Abhidaya. We realize, like you said, no, we are the servant and he is the master. So the relationship is established. What does the servant do to the master? When he sees the master, immediately he'll fold his hands. So we also do that. Dandvats, prostrated obeisances we do. And then we also do some seva. We try to dress him well. We do arati, which pleases him. So we know what pleases the Lord, and then we do these things. So all of these together are called as Abhidaya or devotional activities in this case. And now the mood in which it is done is what we were discussing today. Because depending on the mood in which we do the Abhidaya, the Prajna is given. And then if you have Prajna first and then do Abhidaya, then all this, whatever we discussed today. So now we can understand how we end up messing up this because of the 5 nations that we have, which we spoke of in the beginning. I hope you are able to connect these.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
We get that anger and frustration only because we interchange, you said, no, Prabhuji? Like,
yes.
Because not connecting with the Lord. Expecting the
no, connecting with the Lord, but then connecting with the Lord, but giving importance to me and not to the Lord. It is like that servant saying, I want to do the service to the master, you people stay back, rather than telling the other servant. Whereas the master might still say, no, this is not your best skill, so let somebody else do. No, I will only do. Like say, a driver wants to cook because he likes the Lord so much, and then his master so much, and then he gets into the kitchen and then he makes a mess out of it. Not a good situation, right? He wanted to please the master, but he ends up ruffling too many feathers, and then that actually displeases the master. Same thing you apply for the Lord also. The Lord has this thing about he wants it from certain people, or the situations are such that you will only end up doing a small activity in that process, in the bigger process of service, which is okay, because that's how it has to be. And then see the pleasure in that only. See the pleasure of how the Lord is being served rather than I want to do it.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
That's a paradigm shift in one way, Mataji, because generally we have this object. I want to please Krishna. That's very good. I mean, we all say, yeah, I'm here. I understood Sambandha. I want to please the Lord. Very nice. But then that can lead to anger and frustration and all that. But then if you have this aspect of, I want to see Krishna pleased, so then the whole position or the situation changes. The consciousness within us changes completely. I hope you agree on that.
Yes, Prabhuji, got it, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Prabhuji, are there any presiding deities? Like I heard some time back from somewhere, this Madan, the Madan Mohan and all that. That's a little confusing. I didn't get it properly. That's why I'm asking you, Prabhuji.
So what is that question? Even I didn't understand clearly. Presiding deities of what?
Like when
presiding deity of anger now is Rudradev, we can understand.
No, that is different. But for the Sambandhi, Abhidaya, Prayojana.
Prabhuji, the Mataji is asking Radha
In our scripture, okay, I think I understood what you're saying. So there are these 3 vigrahas in Vrindavan, which is Radha Gopinath, then Damodar, and then if anybody can recall that.
Radha Madan Mohan.
Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Gopinath, and then Radha Damodar.
Radha
So each one is designated as the deity for Sambandha, Abhijaya, and Prayojana. So this is just to help us. And if you pray to Madan Mohan, then he will give us that intelligence to establish the Sambandha in the right way. And then when we have to do Abhidaya, then you do it, do the service for the other deity, then that service is accepted. So this is how our acharyas are always helping us to ensure that we become better and better in the three activities of Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. So these deities are equated there in that way. So if you listen to that lecture, then it will give more clarity on that. But since we're not having time, I'm not going into the details.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Everything is coming from the Lord only, no? So it is just that the reference is made there so that we are able to relate better, understand better. So sometimes, we can't take the whole together. So it is broken down and then given in a way that it is digestible to us. So that is what our acharyas have done. And then the Prayojana deities we say is Radharaman because he's so attractive to look and then it gives us joy and things like that. We can equate and connect like that. Sorry, Mataji, I stop here. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One question, Prabhuji. This creates confusion about the Lord Shiva. This Rudra, what we read here, and Shiva, what we come to know about how he is one of the three Gunavatar, Gunavatars.
Yeah.
Gunavatar is Shiva.
He is the Gunavatar of what guna is Rudradev responsible for, or he is the Adipati of ignorance, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So Tamoguna. So that doesn't mean that Shiva is in Tamoguna. That's a wrong understanding that people have. He's the Adipati of that guna. It is like saying the jailer is in the jail means he's a criminal. No, he might be in the jail, but that doesn't mean he's a criminal. He's there to take care of the criminal. So likewise, people who are in Tamoguna are being taken care by Rudradev. So this is the confusion that we generally hear, which I'm just explaining to you. And then they have a role to perform at the time of destruction. Anger has to be displayed. So who's there? Who better is there other than Rudradev to display that anger and then have this destruction happen? So force has to be used if you have to destroy something. That force is coming from the anger. If there is no anger, you will not be able to do anything. You can't even break a thing. If you want to break something, you have to have force, and that force, the feed for the force is from the anger that is there.
Prabhuji, what my doubt is, there from Supreme Personality of Godhead, Gunavataras come as Vishnu, Rudra, Shiva and Brahma. Here Rudra is born of Brahma's eyebrow with his anger. So actually, what is the origin of Shiva? That is.
The origin of Shiva is not Brahma. He came through Brahma. That's all. But otherwise, his origin is given very clearly. He is an Amsha of Sadashiva. Sadashiva is a Vishnu Tattva. So everything is coming from the Lord. But some of them come directly, some of them come from expansion of the expansions or direct expansion. So either way. So Sadashiva is the Vishnu Tattva, and from Sadashiva, Maheshwara, in Mahesh Dham he is staying, and then there are various avatars of Rudra. Now Rudra comes through Brahma, like how the Lord came through the womb of Devaki. That doesn't mean that it was Devaki. Okay, we can understand that, right? In the same way, from the eyebrows of Brahma he came. So that's the way, because in that process it so happened that it was more relevant for him to come like that, so that all these things that we discuss now can be explained, So otherwise, it's difficult to comprehend. So even Brahma becomes angry, and that anger personification is Rudra. And Rudra is actually an expansion from Sadashiva. So like this, we have to connect. This is not about, so ultimately everybody is coming from the Supreme Lord only, from Krishna only. But they might be intermediaries who are responsible or who might facilitate it. Like the example of how Krishna, when he appeared, he came through the intermediary of Devaki Mata. From the mind of Vasudev, then into the womb of Devaki. And from Devaki's womb, then he was born. It looked like he was born. So now we don't conclude wrongly there, right? So likewise here also. on the eyebrows of Lord. Is that making
Thank
sense?
you, sir. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for covering very essential aspects of bhakti today in today's class. So we'll end the class here, and we'll meet tomorrow at 9:30 once again. So we'll do Vaishnava Pranam Mantra and end the class.
Yes.
Vanja kalpatarubhyascha
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
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 Thank you all.
Prabhuji, Hare
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandasana.
Hare Krishna. Dandasana.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Dandasana.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
I'll end the meeting, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, please.